Hello and welcome to the Liverpool Way podcast after the Reds emerged victorious in Paris thanks largely to what's already being called the best performance of the great Alisson Becker's career. The Reds stopper made over half a dozen world-class saves on a night when PSG dominated Arne Slot's side in a manner that no one else has mustered so far. However, it was substitute Harvey Elliott who won the game with his first touch to give the Reds a crucial lead ahead of the second leg at Anfield. I'm Chris Smith and I'm joined by a TLW editor, Dave Usher, and aptly for this evening, TLW's number one himself, Dan Thomas. Dave, there are smash and grabs, and there's that, which was essentially raising the entire city of Paris to the ground, looting every boutique fashion house, and then ramming the Eiffel Tower up the Qatari's arse, pointy end first. What the fuck?
Yeah, it was smash and grab. I can't argue with that. I can't say it wasn't. The only thing that I will say is the last 20 minutes, I was convinced that we were going to win it. I felt like they'd punched themselves out, and they didn't get the goal. And, they deserved the goal. Not just Alisson. We had a lot of luck with other situations as well, which we'll get to. They'll be thinking, how the hell did we not win that game? Because they did everything but win the game. They played really well. Now, the only other thing I'll say is, as well as they played, and they took a lot of risks. And on another night, we would have sliced them apart and scored 3 or 4 on the counter-attack. But our counter-attacking tonight was horrendous. There was so many situations for us to just put 2 passes together and we'd be in. And we just couldn't do it. And they got away with it. So they were really brave the way they played. They threw everything at us. They were pressing high. They were leaving gaps at the back, going 1v1. And they deserved the win. They didn't get it, because Alisson, and because they punched themselves out and we caught them on the break eventually. But it was just a mad game. The first half especially, I thought the second half, I know Alisson's made saves, but I felt like most of the saves Alisson made in the second half they weren't slicing us open. It was shots from outside the box. There was a free kick as well. It was those kind of situations, or crosses that he's, things that have flashed across the goal. The first half,
some of those were amazing as well. Oh yeah, let's not get that wrong.
No, they were great saves. I'm not taking anything away from Alisson's performance. All I'm saying is, in the first half, it felt like they could just slice through us. The second half, I felt like a lot of it was shots coming from outside the box or wide areas, and they've still got to be saved, because the thing is, they were really, really good shots. They were not high percentage situations that they were in, but they've hit really good shots that are flying into the top corner. So Alisson's had to make those great saves, but ordinarily you'd be quite happy for teams to be shooting from there. The problem was they were hitting shots, and they're all really talented. The Georgian lad was bending them to the far corner. Dembele was as well. So although they're not high percentage shooting situations, when you're shooting as well as they are, it's dangerous. And Alisson's had to make loads of great saves. But the point that I'm trying to make is that I felt in the second half we did have more of a grip on it defensively than we had in the first, where I thought we were just all at sea at times. Second half was much more organised, and we were sitting in a little bit like the Man City game to some extent, except obviously they were more threatening than City were. And it was going perfect, apart from when we had the chances to counter-attack, and then it was just dog shit. Just so many bad passes, bad decisions, just sloppiness. And because if we'd have been sharper, we could have took them to the cleaners on the break, because they were just so committed to going forward and that. Mm-hmm. And so they should be, by the way. This is your home leg, first leg. If you don't go for it now, you'll always think, well, why didn't we go for it? So I felt like they approached it exactly the way they should have done. And that was a proper old school, European Cup game, that where you're going away. It's a tough away game, and you've got to weather the storm, and you're thinking 0-0's all right here if we can get a 0-0, and then you nick something. It was just proper old school. Loved it. Now, it's not usually like that in the Champions League anymore. I mean, look, last night Arsenal got away and won 7-1 in not a particularly difficult game, but not a game where you would expect to go and win 7-1. So that was a throwback tonight to the way it felt like it used to be in the European Cup. So yeah, I loved it. Great night. Really buzzing off it.
Nice. Dan, I mean, we've talked a lot about Alisson on this pod down the years, and the importance of him to us. Never more apparent than tonight. Some of the saves he made, I didn't think he had any right to make, and people are already drawing comparisons to, if we go on and go far and even win this tournament, people are already drawing comparisons to the Napoli save he made in the group stages back in 2019. But what a performance from him tonight! Have you ever seen him better than he was?
No, that is one of the great all-time individual goalkeeping displays. Insofar as the pattern of the game, it was the biggest robbery since Father Damo Lemon rocked up and stole Mr. Benson's whistle. Louis Enrique is going to wake up tomorrow in a state of shock and find he's lost the use of both his legs. It was an absolutely. It's a heist. It's not even a theft. It's a heist. But there's been kind of speculation, talk, a few mutterings of Alisson not being quite back at his best since he came back from his last injury. And for me, that answers the question. He is still the best goalkeeper in the world. String of fantastic saves. And there was a couple tonight where they looked quite desperate, and he doesn't normally do that. But I think that was a reflection of the amount of pressure that we was under. There was a couple of those really low, awkward ones where it kind of squirmed around. He still got a big paw and knocked it clear. He is an incredible, incredible goalkeeper. And yeah, there's a couple of goals where we've looked recently and gone, could he have done better? But one of those nights where Alisson saves that and then some. He was absolutely incredible. It's one of the best goalkeeping displays I've ever seen from anyone. I can't think of any off the top of my head from a Liverpool goalkeeper that were better. I know, when he used to be very good, Pepe Reina had some really, really good games for us. Dudek in Istanbul, I think John Gallagher's just touched that on the chat. That was arguably more luck than anything. He was not the best in that game, but turned up when we needed him.
And he conceded 3.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, getting chipped by Hernan Crespo, and all that. So I don't. And Dudek was probably one of the better goalkeepers we've had in this last 30 years. We've not had goalkeepers capable of those performances.
I just generally don't have to do that because it's very rare we get battered like that as well. So.
Exactly. It's not very often, certainly over, let's just say, since Jurgen came in. And in fact, let's go further back than that. Since Rodgers was manager, it's very rare that we don't have most of the ball and dictate most of the possession and most of the play. We just had a night against a very good team. It's not 5 years ago since PSG were not a serious football team. They've now got a sensible manager. And we approached the game happy for them to have the ball. We played it in the kind of new Labour approach, very sensible, very moderate, not going out of our station too much, just making sure things are ticking over. So it's not a surprise that they had as much of the ball as we did, but they were creating too many chances for my liking, particularly first half. I totally agree with what you said there, Dave. Though, as the game went on, it was mostly long-range stuff, still excellent goalkeeping, but I always felt that we would get one chance to nick it. All it would have taken is for us to actually create a chance, because we didn't create many chances because the ball before the chance was wretched. The worst example being more when
did
he
you have a shot
Darwin.
Other than the goal? Did we even have a single shot?
Diaz right at the end of the first half, which summed up his game.
Don't even remember it.
Yeah.
Let's just touch on the goal then, because it's relevant to the goalkeeper discussion, Dave. Alisson's made nine saves for us there, and they're all very, very high quality saves. And the goal that we end up scoring, the keeper should keep that out. Really, it's not the most convincing. It's a decent finish from Harvey, but he should definitely keep it out. And ultimately, that's the difference. And it's been the difference for us so many times down the years, but as I said earlier, never more apparent than that, I don't think.
Yeah, because that's a top-class goalkeeper as well. At the other end of the pitch, he's Italy's number one, isn't he? And he should be saving that, and he didn't save it. Whereas Alisson saved literally everything that came at him, other than the disallowed one, which we'll get to. But yeah, that is the difference. Is their goalkeeper doesn't make the save. He had one shot to save all night and he didn't save it. Alisson was peppered and saved everything. But then usually when a goalkeeper's had a great game, he's usually conceded a few goals, and the reason he's had a good game is because he's just had so much to do. Like Dan's best ever game, we got beat 16-1. And Dan was man of the match. He saved a penalty and he came off the pitch and he went, "That's the best game I've ever played in my life." He fucking picked the ball up the net 16 times.
If I can correct the honourable gentleman, 14. It was 11-1.
No, it was more than 11, surely.
It's 11-1. John Gallagher will confirm that.
There or something.
No, it's just
somebody opening sweets.
No, I've got my hands in my pocket and there's a sweet wrapper in there.
Stop it, will you? It's fucking doing my head in.
Okay,
Jesus Christ.
Fair enough. If I was eating the sweet, I'm not eating it. It's an empty wrapper.
Well, what are you playing with it for? In your
I
pocket?
don't know. I just am.
Jesus Christ, pack it in. That's coming through loud and clear. Listeners,
as long as you're not playing a game of
around with sweet rabbits.
As long as you're not playing a game of pocket hockey, Dave.
Isn't it pocket billiards? Isn't that what they say? I've not heard pocket hockey. Anyway, yeah, so Sony, 11 goals.
Against my future employers, I worked at Sony for 11 and a half years, not long after that as well. Well, I didn't play for them. I only represented TLW against Sony.
So how you got the job? Did you throw the game?
Yeah. Makes you think, doesn't it?
Seriously, Dave's already said it, but I'm going to come in there. I will never, and never did, never have, will play that well again. I had the game of my life. It would have been 16-1 if not more. I saved a penalty. I pulled off the save that Gianluigi Buffon couldn't against Luis Garcia in the Champions League when he scored that goal. I made that save. And then, but we've got to. This is completely unrelated, but this is what this podcast is all about. You've got to tell the put down that you put to the Sony goalkeeper, Dave. I was pissing myself at that.
I think I've already told it. I'm sure I've already told it.
Tell it again. It's worth it.
So obviously we got absolutely battered, and I was playing up front and wasn't really seeing any of the ball. I still had more touches than anyone else, but that was just from taking the kickoffs. But so I'm just standing up. There's no point me coming back in defence because then we've got no out ball if we do manage to get it back. So I'm standing on the halfway line just chatting with the centre back, and we did get a goal. Was the ball got played up to me and I played it out to the left wing to John, and then I spun and I started running towards the box, and John tried to cross it to me and just done a Konchesky in the FA Cup final, so it just went right over the keeper's head and dropped in the far post, and that was literally the only attack we had in the whole game. But anyway, so then after that I'm just standing there chatting with the centre half while Dan's pulling off heroics down the other end, and the goalkeeper's being a smart ass and he shouts out to the defender. He went, "Hey, have you got a crossword or something I can do? I'm fucking bored stiff here." And I just turned around and went, "You've already missed one across." And as the centre half was fucking pissed himself. He's like, he's fucking done you there. And I'm thinking, you know what? That's actually better than if I'd have scored, because we fucking got battered anyway. What difference would the goal have made? But at least I made a tit out of him in front of all his mates. But,
do you remember when?
Go on.
Do you remember when we played Arsenal? And Aubameyang had 6 touches and 5 of them were kickoffs. He was up against.
Was that a cup,
yeah,
cup game or something?
No, I think it was a game at Anfield where we beat them 5-1 in Mo's first season.
Yeah, we had that spell where we just battered them every time we played them, didn't we, at Anfield?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I can relate to that, absolutely.
Fair enough.
But anyway.
Dan, would you have saved the disallowed goal by Kfara Shelia?
No. What a player he is, by the way. I think he looks very, very good. I mean, he tore us to shreds a few years ago when he played for Napoli, didn't he? And I was kind of... If I could have brought one player in, he would have been towards the top of that list, but obviously he went to PSG. It's a great finish. They must be kicking themselves, Chris. They must be absolutely kicking themselves. Obviously, that it was offside. It's the correct decision. But for them to go up against the goalkeeper in that kind of form, and then they beat him and it's offside. But no, I don't think I would have saved it. No.
All right, fair enough. Good humility, Dan.
Well, if Alisson couldn't save it,
well, quite.
It would be a bit of a stretch for you to say, "Well, I would have done."
Well, you've not seen me feeling that slip, Dave. I'm still quite nimble and agile. And
He
obviously,
did say he would have saved the Buffon one though from Luis Garcia. So
oh yeah, I pulled off the save that Buffon couldn't. I'm not saying that the lad who played for Sony was struck the ball quite as well as Luis Garcia would have, but it was just it was the best save I've ever made. It's making me nostalgic and warm thinking about it, Chris, even though it was 15 years ago.
not too warm, I hope.
Would you have saved Harvey's?
It was not an easy save, that, because it's low and it's back across, and that's what you want the left-footed player, because we've seen, how many times have we seen Mo Salah do that, open up his body, slide it bottom corner. We've seen it more times than you can think. So that's where you want Elliott to put it. It's hard for the goalkeeper. He's a big fella, Donnarumma. He's quite a tall lad, so getting down there is not
Big
easy.
fucking baby.
Well, yeah, that's a separate discussion. For his, do you know what? Actually, I'm going to call that out as a moment. I'll come back to whether he should have saved it. Yes, but we were on the ropes and on the rack, and we went to that little chat and a bit of a calm down after that kind of not getting kicked in the face incident. And I don't think PSG ever got quite as much of a stranglehold in the game after that. By the way. So going back to the save, it's where you want, the non-save should I say, it's where you want your kind of attacker to put it. I think the goalkeeper will be disappointed. I want my goalkeeper to save that. I'd want Alisson to save that. Every time I see a ball come off a goalkeeper's hand and it squirms into a corner, I will always say you should have saved it, because he'll think he should have saved it. He will be gutted that he's not kept it out, because he should have.
See, I thought that, but is there also an argument that, because if he gets his hand to it, you think, you should save that. Is there an argument that he's actually done well to even get his hand to it?
Potentially, yeah. I think it's not like the most venomous strike that Harvey's hit. It wasn't exactly like whipped hard into the bottom corner. It was a good finish. It's a good strike. It's not like a disastrous miss or anything like that if he doesn't score. But he should do what he's done. He's done exactly what he should do. For me, though, I always see a ball come off a goalkeeper's wrist, and it's like, you should keep that out. I've always thought that, and it's not like a horrendous rick or anything, but particularly tonight, would Alisson save it? And the answer is yes. Yeah. So should keep it out, but that's not exactly a fair bar to other goalkeepers. It's the Kelleher argument, isn't it? Would Alisson have saved that? Yeah, but Kelleher's not Alisson, so it's a bit of a moot point. But you take the point, don't you, that there's a level, and Alisson is in the absolute global elite. And Donnarumma is a fantastic goalkeeper. He's easily one of the best top five in Europe. I would wager, if not the world. But it's difficult. It's not an easy save for him, because he's a big lad, and Elliott's done everything right. He's hit it low, hit it across him, hit it in the corner. Not an easy save for him to make if he makes it at all.
Especially as it's his first touch, it's a really good finish, because he hadn't even touched the ball up to that point. He'd literally just come on. So
yeah, 47 seconds.
Absolutely fucking made up for him.
Yeah, man, my boy. And the other pleasing aspect of the goal, Dave, was the role your boy Darwin played in it. Like when it happens, like I see, they show the replay and I see it develop, and I'm like, oh shit, Nunez is going to be offside here in the build-up, but he does what he never usually does and checks his run back inside to make sure he is, and then he does fucking great to get on it and hold it up, and the pass to Harvey is perfectly weighted, and it just sets him up perfectly, running into acres of space.
No, he's done really well, but it's one of them where in a couple of weeks' time it'll just be forgotten as though it never happened. So. And people will be pointing to like goal tallies and fucking expected misses and all this shit. I seen something the other day, and even I'd forgotten about this. And obviously, I'm like his biggest fan. But it's the goal we scored away at Arsenal, and he does fucking brilliant. And he puts it on a plate for Mo, and it's like, even I'd forgotten about that. But like, all of that stuff it's like it doesn't count, because. I don't know what the expectations are. He's not. I'm willing to accept when people are saying he shouldn't be first choice. He doesn't fit. He's this. He's that. that's all like legitimate arguments, but it's when like, you know, the he's shit, fuck him off, that winds me right up, because it's just clearly not the case. And even if he's not scoring, he does contribute, like tonight for example, and the assist for Mo at Arsenal, stuff like that. But I'm just glad that he was able to get on the pitch and do something and just get like the last couple of weeks out of his system, because it's obviously not been a great couple of weeks. And stuff with, like, you know, what Slot's been saying, and, you know, it's just not being good. So nice that he got half an hour. I thought he was going to, I said to you, he's going to get the winner here, and not because I'm like doing, I know I say that every single game, but it wasn't that. There was actually like logic behind it, and it was because of like that game was set up for him, for us to play the way we're playing, and then just balls over the top, ball in behind, all that. It's perfect for him to play. And that system that we played at the end, the way we sort of went back to what we did against Man City. So when Curtis comes on, like we had like the he sort of went like, we went with the box again, the box midfield, and then you had Salah and Nunes in like those wide striker roles. That in a game like that really suits him, I think, because he can come back and do his defending, which he does, but he gets chances to just stretch his legs and run. Whereas when the game's played in the other team's half, there's not really anywhere for him to run a lot of the time, and that takes away like a big part of his arsenal, if you like. So I felt like that was perfectly set up for him tonight, and he did have that situation, and Mo completely fucked up the pass. I'm not going to lie, there was a part of me that was relieved that Mo fucked up the pass, because I don't know if I don't know if my heart could have fucking withstood him running through one-on-one. But yeah, it's worked out well. He's got a nice little assist there, and I'm absolutely buzzing for Harvey, because it's just been such a nightmare season for him, like in terms of just sitting on the bench watching, hardly ever even getting on the pitch. Even tonight, like, he gets on for 5 minutes, and I don't know whether like that ridiculously shit pass that Mo attempted, whether that was the final straw. And Slot's like, yeah, it's not his night. You leave him on even though it's not his night, because he says himself he's a moments player. He just keeps waiting, and eventually something's going to happen, and he'll make something, make a goal, or he'll score a goal. I think at that moment we're like, yeah, that's not going to happen, Mo. You know, it's not gone for you tonight at all. Worst game of the season from him, probably. I thought like the left back just dominated him, and then in the situations when like we did get him the ball 1v1 in those positions where you're thinking, okay, now's his moment, now he's going to do something, and he just ran straight into the left back every time, like. So made sense to take him off, but you think Slot might be one of those lucky managers who, like, everything he touches just turns to gold, because he makes that change, and Harvey scores. Like, Mo's just toiled away and had no joy for 85 minutes. Harvey comes on playing in an attacking role where he's not really suited to playing there. We know that, like, but he ends up scoring with his first touch, and it's another substitute that's created it for him. So that's one of those where the manager's just like thinking, yep, that's worked out just how I drew it up on the board. But you know,
plus Mo doesn't get that free run into the box probably like Harvey does he? Like,
yeah,
you know,
that's true.
Probably keeping their eye on him a little bit closer.
I think Harvey came from deeper than Mo would have done as well. Yeah. Mo would have been right up the pitch, wouldn't he? So yeah, that's a good point as well. But I tell you, the moment when I knew we were all right tonight and it was going to be fine was when Endo came on. He's just like a big fucking warm comfort blanket that you just wrap around you, and you're like, yeah, it's all going to be okay now. How fucking boss was he again?
Yeah. That moment down in the corner flag where he's got him, like he's holding him there down by the corner flag after we'd scored. It's like, that was awesome.
He's just crazy. I love him.
Do you think now, Dan, that having got the result there tonight, this will really knock the stuffing out of them, and when it comes to the second leg, it'll be a much easier time for us at Anfield, and they won't be able to recover? Or do you think we still have to be really vigilant? I think it's next week, isn't it? Next Tuesday.
Yeah, it is next Tuesday. Yeah, I think we need to be on it, Chris. These have proven, like, whenever you think of PSG in recent times, you think of Farmers League, like obnoxiously terrible in Europe by and large, don't turn up for the big games. But this is a different animal. This is a team quite full of local players with a very smart manager. So they will be gutted walking off that pitch and then having lost a game that they've largely dominated. And again, you know, like, we ceded a lot of territory to them I'm not so sure that we would have been happy to cede the number of chances that we did, but we were happy to let them have the ball by and large. So for me, next we've done great tonight to get out with a win. We would have been happy with a draw before kick-off probably, because that's generally the rule, isn't it, in Europe? Draw your away games, get back to the home leg and do your job there. Obviously, saying that I'm going to sound like Grandpa Simpson here. I miss the away goals rule already, because if that was still there, then PSG have got quite a big job to do, haven't they? And you can hear Clive Tilsley, can't you, saying, "Well, they needed to score anyway, didn't they, Andy?" And it's kind of obviously Clive Tilsley's not from St Helens and full of a cold, but you take my point. And
I can never tell whether you're full of a cold or not, Dan. It's so much of a muchness, to be honest.
Yeah, I have a nasal voice, don't I? I could concerningly be mistaken for a Man United fan if I wore black all the time. It's not an easy tie in the second leg. I do think that we have got the experience. We've got Anfield to see him off. So for me, I don't really suppose we'll treat the game too much differently next week. Obviously, we're at home, so we'll be expected to do a lot more. But Slot's not scared of doing that. Like he did it against Chelsea, didn't he, at Anfield, when we was all getting a bit uncomfortable with how the game was going. And we're not used to it. We're not used to surrendering territory. We're used to playing on the front foot and trying to get up there. Whereas this is a different approach that we're taking. Yeah. So, it will be interesting to see how the crowd react to it, because we're used to blood and thunder football at home. And I don't think we're going to get that next week. I think we'll play it smartly again. If we were playing, with the greatest of respect to PSV, someone like that, then we're obviously going to go at them. But this is not we're not playing FC Dog and Duck or Racing Pig and Whistle. We're playing a pretty accomplished team. And didn't they have the longest unbeaten sequence in all competitions in Europe?
Yeah,
22 games. Yeah, which we've ended tonight. That's nothing for us to sniff at. And I don't suppose come the end of the season that will be our biggest achievement, but it's still nothing to be sniffed at. So for me, I think we need to be careful. I think we need to, and we'll probably get onto team selection in the next few games in a bit, because me and Dave have had a kind of conversation about that already, and some interesting stuff's come up. So we need to be very careful with that game, I think, because they are a handful. They can hurt us, but I think if we would have taken our chances on the break today, again, we didn't miss chances. We just missed a chance to create a chance.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. If we play like that at Anfield, again, you would fancy us to carve out at least two huge opportunities on the break. And you would hope that with Salah in the team, or Jota, or whoever gets the chance, that they would take it. But because Anfield's floodlights European night, it's an old cliche, but it's not.
Get an early goal.
Yeah, early goal. It's a special place when there's something to play for. And it's like 1-0 is a huge advantage to us. But I'm looking forward to that next week. I think that could be a really
be great.
good evening.
David, a couple of questions. Do you think they're the best? I mean, obviously there's a spectre of Real Madrid that could possibly await, but do you think they're the best team we're likely to play, or the best performance we're likely to face in the competition this season? And for your money, are they the best team that we've played all season?
Best team we've played all season, I would say, definitely. Best team we're likely to face, it would depend. If Real Madrid got knocked out, which they won 2-1 last night, didn't he? But so that's not over. They've got to play away at Atleti. I don't know. I still think Real Madrid will go through, and they're the best team we're likely to face. Now, I know we've already faced Real Madrid, but the Real Madrid we faced is not the Real Madrid that we would be facing if we meet them. Like, when can we get them in the? Is it the final, or could we get them before that? Semis, isn't
get
it?
them in the semis.
Yeah.
Semis. Yeah, semis.
If we get them, then they're a totally different team to the one that we beat comfortably. They had about 6 players missing that night, and I know they're still bringing in good players to replace them, but some of the best players weren't available. They hadn't really got into the stride. They're a much better team now than when we played them. So from that point of view, I'd say PSG is the best team we've played. I also think part of that might be just we were not really at it tonight, because, like I say, they're going to do certain things and that's beyond your control. But then when you've actually got the ball, that is within your control to make a simple 5-6 yard pass to a teammate. And when you're not doing that, that's not really because of them being amazing. That's just because of you being sloppy. Which, we've seen Gravenberch just pass the ball out of play twice tonight. He hasn't done that all season at all. And then, I seen Dom standing on the ball like there's a chance to break, and he stood on it, and then he's had to turn around and he's lost possession, and just things like that. Like, that's not because they're amazing. That's just because we had like a load of players. He was just on an off night. So my gut tells me that they are really good, and I think there's still like plenty of meat on the bone for that second leg, because I think like that could be one of those end to end, we concede, then we've got to score two, like to get, I can just, like a Dortmund type game, I could see something like that happening, rather than it just being like a routine, we just roll them over 2-0. I think they're dangerous, and I do think that they're adventurous as well. I think they'll come and they'll throw everything that they've got at us, and it'll be a really entertaining game, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we haven't really touched upon this yet, but tonight obviously looks very different. We've spoken a lot about the sucker punch at the end and Alisson's save, but for my money, we're really fortunate, Dan, not to be down to 10 men after 25 minutes with the push in the back. I mean, it is a shove in the back from Konate, and there's no free kick given on the pitch. The VAR doesn't overturn it. I think we're really, really fortunate there. How did you see it?
Agreed. Yeah. It's a bad habit that Konate has. It's not the first time he's done that, yeah. And it probably won't be the last. It's a really bad habit, because if he goes off, if he's sent off, that's not getting overturned. Not a chance.
No.
So we are conversely, as you just said, Chris, very lucky in reverse that nothing was given. I mean, in this kind of VAR regime that we're in at the moment, we don't want to interfere with the on-field decision very much, do we? And especially not in Champions League matches. So I wasn't hugely surprised that it wasn't overturned on that aspect. But yeah, it is a really bad habit of a very, very good defender. He just has these brain explosions. Quite why he feels the need to do it, I don't know. He's big, he's strong, he doesn't need to do it, but he does stupid shit like that sometimes, and I've no idea why, but it's not the first time that he's done it. But, it could have been the other way around, and we'll be talking about how he's done it before, and with a lot more severe consequences, because I wouldn't have fancied playing against them for all that time with 10 men.
Yeah.
For me, Dave, that's one of those you look at that, like, when it's in real time and the ref's sort of looking at it, you can almost understand that he hasn't called it there and then, because at first look it looked kind of a little bit shoulder to shoulder to me, and then on the replay you could see it's like he's beyond Konate, the attacker, and it's clearly a shove in the back. So that's something that probably should meet the threshold that you might want to have another look at that.
Yeah, I think it was probably really close to him sending him to the screen. Like, they probably thought long and hard about whether they should or not, and it's one of those, it's 50-50. I don't mean like the challenge is 50-50, because no, it's a foul. It's 50-50 whether they get given though, because it's such a big call. Like, if you do that on the halfway line and there's other defenders back, they'll give the free kick every time. But if you give the free kick, you also got to give a red card. So it's a big call, and referees are reluctant to do that a lot of the time. And I think the referee's position, he was behind it. So if he'd have been like looking at it from like the TV angle that we seen, because as soon as that happened, I was like, oh no, you can't do that. That's a foul. But the referee's position, he's not. He hasn't got that kind of view. He just maybe sees it could have just been like shoulder to shoulder. And it wasn't. And as Dan said, Konate's done that a few times. I've got it in my head, like just these memories in my head of him at the Annie Road end where someone's gone past him and he's chasing after him like in front of the away end, and he's just put his arm out and leaned on them and just pushed them in the back, and the away end's going mad. I seem to remember like at least 2 occasions when that's happened. And at the time, I remember thinking, that's a foul, but you're probably going to get away with it. But there's going to come a point when you don't get away with it. And, tonight he's got away with it again. But, yeah, it was a foul. It was a foul, and it was, therefore, a red card. Yeah, we got away with that. But in terms of the VAR getting involved, they are told it's got to be like, an absolute 100% mistake. Maybe they've looked at that and it's like, well, it's 75% a mistake. That doesn't meet the threshold for us getting involved. But they will have been tempted to get involved, I'm sure. So we dodged the bullet there, definitely. And even the offside, I mean, it's the correct decision, but morally, fuck me. He's not even... He's gaining no advantage because he's not even going towards goal. He's coming away from goal when he gets caught offside. And it's like... That automated thing that they shown, it was just like the back of his heel. Mm-hmm. I was like, oh my God, that I know that once you've got the technology in place, then you've got to give that. But that's not what it's supposed to be. It's morally wrong. And I know we've benefited from that tonight, but I don't want to see goals getting disallowed for that. That's just... You're not gaining an advantage. The whole point in offside is it's to stop attackers from gaining an advantage. You're not gaining an advantage in that situation. But, maybe the rule needs changing that if you're going away from goal, then it's not offside. You've got to be actually running in towards goal for it to be offside.
Yeah, but then you could have people coming back from 10 yards or something. Right? You just got to make it more daylight, I think. Like, it has to be... it can't be the width of a fucking heel.
I don't know the answer because you've always got to have a cut-off point where,
exactly.
No matter what the cut-off point is, you're always going to have a decision where they're a millimetre offside.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the answer is. I just know I don't like this. It's not what offside's supposed to be.
Yeah. And they won't get rid of it now. We've benefited from it tonight, as you say. So we're gonna be thankful for it.
We benefit from it a lot because the way we hold the line.
Yeah.
So we do catch... It feels like every single game the other team has at least one goal disallowed for offside. Sometimes it's two. But there is like a skill to what we're doing. I'm not saying all of the time, but if you're holding the line right and you haven't got a straggler, then you are going to catch teams offside. And with the technology, you're going to get stuff that like the officials miss. So you've always got that safety net. Well, if we hold the line... Even if the linesman misses it, it's going to get picked up by the technology anyway. But it does feel like every single game the other team has like at least one goal disallowed against us for offside.
At least the Champions League automated VAR actually works.
Yeah, I didn't watch any of the FA Cup games, but I know people were complaining about it not working properly. But yeah,
it literally didn't work. Yeah, it literally didn't work. They had to go to a manual decision instead.
Fucking hell.
That was in the Bournemouth against Wolves game. There was, I think, it was a 7-minute delay while they were trying to sort it out. The goal got disallowed after all that as well.
Farce. Just overcomplicating things, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Dan, we're a little bit all over the place tonight, but I've been wanting to ask you the last couple of times I've thrown it to you, really. But do you have a favourite of the Alisson saves tonight? I'll give that to both of you because there's a few contenders, I think.
I think the one-on-one early in the first half where there was a scramble and they had 2 or 3 chances. He makes a one-on-one save, which reminded me so much of the save he made against Milik in that Napoli game. That 6 years ago now. It reminded me very much of that. Obviously, not as high stakes, bit of a scramble around the edge of the box, but yeah, that for me was the one. And the last one, I think it was it Doure, the substitute. He curled it far corner.
Yeah,
and he just poured it away. That was the best one of the not close range goalkeeping. I thought that was
it was definitely going in that
save.
One at the end.
100%.
Towards the end as well. It was bending right in the far corner. It was an absolutely tremendous hit.
Yeah, tremendous hit, tremendous save. But I always talk up Alisson's one-on-one goalkeeping, and again, perfect example of a thou shalt not pass. Admittedly, I'm saying that we had Szoboszlai had to get it off the line, but we had a bit of a scramble, haven't we? And we just managed to keep ourselves disciplined, keeping no daft handballs or anything like that. So it helped, but yeah, I would say that one-on-one and the that curler from Dore at the end, it was a sensational save. Sensational.
Yeah, I think the last one for me. But
Yeah.
the 1v1, was that the one when Virgil just went fucking AWOL?
Yeah. Yeah, it was.
That was just bizarre. That was like his fucking
ran
mum
towards
called him
the
in for
middle.
his tea or something. He's over there covering Dembele, and the next thing he just does a fucking total U-turn and just runs in the opposite direction. It's like, Virgil, your tea's ready. It's fucking weird. It was so weird. He just left them on his own to go through like 1v1.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
I had no idea what was going on there. That was bizarre. But yeah, that's a great save, the 1v1. But he's great at that. And you know what? Kelleher's great at those as well. He's obviously learned from Alisson, training with him every day, because that's an area where he's really good. He's made loads of those saves when he's been filling in for Alisson. So we are really good in that department, 1v1s.
It's the goalkeeper's body as a goalkeeping glove thing that I always talk about.
Yeah.
Just use the whole body. One thing I want to come in on there, if you don't mind, actually, Dave and Chris, is that's now 3 clean sheets in a row. After shipping quite a few goals, it's good to have back to back clean sheets, especially like the teams we've played. City are obviously City on a good day, they can cause you a lot of problems. Newcastle tend to score a lot of goals. PSG have got a lot of good attacking players. So yeah, really, really pleased with that. Let's keep that going, because it's at the stage of the season now where we're in the 5th of March. It's that time of the season where you need to start winning games 1-0 sometimes, because there's a lot on the line when you're playing teams. They might be fighting relegation, which I'm sure we'll come on to on Saturday. They might be going for Europe or whatever. So there's always something to play for at this time of the season. So being able to nick a 1-0, and the important bit being the nil, can be very important. So that's given me a lot of cheer.
Yeah, I can't read too much into that one when Alisson's had to make like 9 fucking great saves. I'm not like talking about clean sheets and defensive solidity in that situation. Although one thing that I do think we need to talk about is I thought Trent was really good tonight, like stuck to it, like defensively. He still got beat a few times, but he was dogged, he was concentrating, and I thought he defended really well for the most part tonight.
There was that one moment when they were breaking on us, and he sort of covered down the left-hand side, like ran back neck and neck with the forwards and took it off him and then turned in the other direction. That was just a sign of a class footballer more than anything. Like, you'd see Gerrard do that kind of thing from time to time as well. Yeah. Like, just really, really great.
Another one of those, the point you just made there, exactly the same thing, was when that ball like got whipped across the face of goal and he was at the back post with a player on him and he controlled it and then played it out. Didn't panic. He took a great touch and then cleared it. Again, that was just technique, but on like a cool head. But no, even just in like his 1v1s now, I can think of a couple of occasions when he got absolutely skinned. But who didn't? They were running past Gravenberch, they were running past Robertson. Maka got skinned a couple of times because a team full of like pacey dribblers who were just, every time they get it, they're running at you. That's going to happen. You're not going to stop them every time. But I thought he dealt with it really well for the most part. So he's one of our better players tonight, I thought.
Yeah. Were you... Well, that's Dan, that's the first time we kept 3 consecutive clean sheets all season. So I know, it's in quite fortuitous circumstances with the red card, the fractionally disallowed goal for offside, and the 45 wonder saves from the goalkeeper. But clean sheet's a clean sheet, right, mate? you got to take it when it's there.
Swiggity swooty, give me that clean sheet booty.
Hey, what?
Sexy. How many lucky ladies have heard that down the years now?
Not as many as they should have.
It's their loss, mate. It's their loss.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, the joys have been a one club. The joys have been a one man club. I fucked that up. I meant a one club man.
Fucking Matt Letizia over here.
Oh, don't. People say I look like Matt Letizia, And to that, all,
like him as well.
To that, all I can say is, makes you think, doesn't it?
It does. Oh man, nice.
I don't
Fair
see
play
that
to you,
one.
Dan.
That's a I would not have seen that one.
No, I remember.
Nose. There's no nose.
It is the nose. It is the nose. Yeah. But I remember I was on holiday with Steve Aslan, obviously one of my friends who you both know. We was on holiday in the south of France, and some jabroni of an adult come over and said, "You look like Matt Le Tissier." I was only like 14 or 15 or something like that. But I remember it very distinctly because we was actually watching the Merseyside derby. It was we hadn't beaten them for ages, and we beat them 3-2. It was like right at the end of the millennium. I remember it. I think it might have been the last Merseyside derby at Anfield in the millennium. Just remember it very distinctly. We won 3-2 because was it 3-1? But we struggled. We had a bad run against them, didn't we? As unthinkable as that is now.
Was that the Dogs of War era?
It was, yeah. But Julia was manager, so we were just starting to turn it round because we had a good run against them under Julia, didn't we? So we just started to turn it round.
So one person said you look like Matt Le Tissier, and that was when you were 14.
Yeah. But then I've mentioned it, and some people have gone, "Oh yeah." So there, obviously, it makes you think, doesn't it, Maud, as well?
Back in the late 90s, it probably would have been like still quite a nice thing to be likened to Matt Le Tissier in some kind of ways.
I mean, he was
like he hadn't gone off the deep end then, had he? Or at least we didn't know that.
Yeah.
Not that we knew of anyway. Yeah. What is it in the Southampton Waters? Because Ricky Lambert's up a tree somewhere as well, isn't he? He's lost.
Yeah. So that probably all that like nuclear testing they do in the channel and all that.
Even my boy Walsh, he's not great. Like,
yeah, wrong.
I'll stick to sunny St Helens instead of sunny Southampton.
Yep. Fair enough. All right. So where were we? Clean sheet to clean sheet. That's 3 in a row. You'd like to think we'll get another one at the weekend against Southampton on Saturday with the bottom of the league, one of the worst teams in the history of the Premier League, coming to visit this weekend. But what else have we got to talk about from tonight's game? I mean, Dave, I think you mentioned that the stoppage after the non-kick in the face from Darwin, the goalkeeper, helped us regroup a little bit. But I also think that was a lot to do with the fact that Curtis was on the field after that, and he gave us a little bit more composure on the ball. I thought he was one of our better performers on the night, even though he was only on the field for 20 odd minutes, half an hour.
Yeah, he was good. All the subs made a difference and did what you needed them to do in their own different ways. But yeah, we definitely got a bit more control of the ball because Curtis, even Curtis even on a bad day, he doesn't give the ball away. Sometimes he's too safe if it's not happening for him, but he doesn't lose the ball. So that helped us just by him coming on and just getting on the ball and getting us up the pitch. And his pressing's really good. He's superb. And even when he lost the ball tonight, he went and got it back straight away. And it just kept the ball 30 yards further away from our goal than it was. So that was the difference that he made. And then obviously you've got the other two subs combining for the goal. You've got Endo just being a fucking boss, just shutting everything down. So yeah, just really good. I also want to say I thought Robbo had a really good game, considering the first half he was getting targeted and Dembele just went by him like he wasn't there. And he settled after that, and Dembele can do that. He's
the best I've seen him play though. Ever,
I've always thought he was shit. Every time I've seen him play, he's been fucking shit. But then you read he's got 20 goals in his last 14 games. You're like, oh, maybe all that potential that he's always had, maybe he's finally starting to realise it. And then you see him tonight, and you're like, yeah, he's dangerous, he's lively. But no, I thought especially second half, I thought Robbo was really good.
You'd like to think now, Dan, I mean, we just mentioned some of the substitutes there. Saturday might be a really good opportunity to give Endo a start, to give Curtis a start. Darwin, probably Kostas will play in that game. Do you think we can sort of afford to make a few changes going into Southampton at the weekend and give some players who, they've kind of been run ragged over the last couple of weeks, your Soboslais, your McAllisters, Diaz put in a big shift again tonight, even though he wasn't very good. Do you think we sort of rotate a little bit going into the weekend and give some other players a run out?
Here's your moment, Dan. Go on.
Well, I would rotate a little bit, but not loads, Chris, no. And here's my theory, my logic I present before the court. So we have Southampton on Saturday. Don't get me started. Top versus bottom. Blah 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 blah. Don't get me talking about the nerves that's going to cause me. But we we have an opportunity here to go full pelt for 3 games. Hear me out. So I want us to go relatively strong against Southampton. Let's get them beaten. We have the second leg against PSG where it's going to be a hard game. We're going to expend a lot of energy. We then have the Carling Cup final, or whatever it's called these days, against Newcastle. After that game, it's then international duty. And in a very, very rare thing after an international break, we don't actually play until the midweek. We actually have, a 17 or 18-day gap. And I know the players are going to be travelling. And I know they'll have international duty, some of them. Hopefully we'll have a few Alex Ferguson, or this person's got a cold, or whatever, this person's got some early onset hay fever, few withdrawals like that.
The Ryan Giggs special.
Exactly that, yeah. Let's get some of these nebulous international withdrawals underway. But with that being said, even if we don't actually play until the 2nd of April. So for me, go full tilt against Southampton. You can rest with the ball, do all of that magic, which is beyond my understanding. Go for it against PSG, and obviously against Newcastle, go for it. It's a cup final. And then there's enough of an opportunity to rest everyone naturally. Everyone will be naturally rested because we won't play for a few weeks. And then an extra 3 days as well. I don't know why it is or how it's happened. I just think it's circumstance. But the international break finishes on, I think it's the 30th, and that is the FA Cup weekend. So we don't have a game as soon as the international break finishes. Now, concern there is that we generally suck after a long break, and it's the derby, so we'll have to sort our shit out for that. But that's for down the line, and obviously I would hope the players are going to be as fucking fired up as we are for that match. But again, I'm getting ahead of myself. I would consider resting a few. I mean, Trent, we really don't want Trent to go down because we don't have any alternatives at right back apart from Quansah. I would be okay with rotating Costas and Robbo. No problem with that at all. Other than that, I'd get Jones in as well, yeah. But other than that, I wouldn't be going making loads of changes. I'd be saying get through this next week, lads, and then you can have a bit more of a break. Personally, is what I would do. And I know not everyone's going to agree with that, and people are saying that I'm treating Southampton with too much respect, and I get that. But for me, it's important to get 3 points and then move on to the PSG game and then move on to that final. But let's do that with our strongest team, because the opportunity to rest people will come naturally with the international break, and then the gap afterwards.
I don't know, Dan. Like you don't know who's going to pick up injuries on the international break, and all kinds of shit could kind of happen. You can't take that as a given that people are just going to come back rested from travelling halfway around the route. I think the overestimation you're making as well is that how big a drop off it's going to be if we were to bring Curtis in for, say Szoboszlai in a game at home against Southampton. I don't necessarily think we need his legs. They're just going to come to our and keep the score down effectively. So I don't necessarily think you're going to need this like marauding up and down the field midfield performance. Curtis will actually be really handy in a game like that because he's really good at picking the lock and keeping teams in and that kind of stuff. There's no drop off, I don't think, really, like in terms of bringing Costas in for Robbo. I think Costas has deputised really well when he has. In the forward positions, I think Diaz and Jota could be, without too much drop off, give Darwin a start. I think this could be a game for him to start. And if Gakpo's fit as well, I'm not sure what the deal is with him. I'd be happy making like 5 or 6 changes tonight from tonight, and then going again in what's likely to be another high energy game less than a week from now against PSG, which is the one that we really, really, really need to be at our best for. What do you reckon, Dave?
Yeah, absolutely. Because like Dan's arguments about they can rest in a few weeks, that's not the point. We've got 3 games in a week. Well, it's 4 games in 10, 11 days if you're counting tonight. You can't just play the same players in those games. So for me, Gravenberch should be nowhere near that team on Saturday. He's definitely getting a weekend off for me. I wouldn't be putting him in. Play Endo. Give Endo a start. Yeah. Why is there like this lack of trust in starting Endo. He's a fucking good player. Just put him in, let him start, and let Gravenberch put his feet up and have a well-earned rest. Also, Curtis comes in, and personally, I'd probably put him in for Don because of the amount of running that Don does. But you could bring him in for Maka. I'd be looking at getting Harvey a start. The forwards,
all three. He'd start all three.
I'd seriously be thinking about it, and then you've got the other players on the bench if like you need to press the emergency button, but you shouldn't have to because it's fucking Southampton. So I'd even be thinking about like getting Quansah in the team. Now the only question there is, do you put him in for Trent or do you put him in for Konate? Because we do have to be careful with Trent. I don't know whether you can play Trent in all of these games for 90 minutes. I just think that might be a bit too much of a risk. But we haven't got any natural cover because Gomez and Bradley are out injured. So maybe you play Trent for an hour, and if it's going well, then you can put Quansah on, or you stick Endo right back, or something like that. But you definitely have to make changes, and quite a few of them, because you're going to have like a really high intensity game against PSG on the Tuesday, and then you've got a cup final at Wembley, which, you know, we all know like Wembley's like a draining pitch, and you know players will get cramp late on and stuff. So I just think this is you can't be playing all of your first team players against Southampton in a home game. You just no. I would
put it this way, Dave. Right,
5
like
or 6 changes minimum.
We couldn't have asked for, like, if you say, oh, you got 2 games against PSG in 6 days, and then you've got a cup final at Wembley 4 days after that. The Premier League game you want in between those would be the bottom of the league at home, right? We couldn't have handpicked it any better. And they got 9 points. They've won 2 games all season. You know, they've conceded 65 goals, and we are 58 points ahead of them.
And they're in a terrible run at the moment. They've been in a bad run all season.
Yeah,
at least
they're in a 27-game bad run.
In a lot of games. Recently, they're just getting fucking walloped. Every team they face just seems to be taking them to the cleaners. So, yeah, it is. It's the perfect team to play in this situation. And you've got to take advantage of that and get some players well-earned rest. Now, if you want to have them on the bench, break glass in case of emergency, then fine. I'm not saying like we throw a load of kids out there. You know, I'm not saying treat it like the Plymouth game with like a load of kids on the bench and all of that. No, you have your big hitters on the bench if you need to bring them on, but hopefully you don't need to bring them on, or you're just bringing them on for like a little 15-20 minute run out at the end of the game just to keep them ticking over. But no, we definitely need to be making changes for this. And you know, these lads deserve to play. That's the thing, is like, I know that some of them didn't cover themselves in glory at Plymouth, but that's part of it because they're not playing that often, and then you get thrown in, and I just think like Harvey will be flying after his little 5-minute cameo tonight. I'd want Harvey starting at the weekend. I think Endo deserves to start. I don't think Endo started a league game all season. That's mind-blowing to me. And Harvey hasn't. Harvey still hasn't had 90 minutes in the league all season.
Yeah. I mean, that was the one downside for me. Not a downside, but the caveat in my mind when Harvey scores tonight, and it's like, well, it's not going to make any difference. He's still not going to get on the field more, because that's just not how slot operates, is it? It's not like you scored, you get a reward. It's like I'm picking the team I want to pick for this game, and there's merit to that approach as well. But you gotta have the carrot for these lads as well, haven't you? To you know, if you do come in and do well, there is an avenue for you to get more minutes. It can't be you score the winner in Paris in a massive Champions League knockout game, and then you get injury time in the league game against Southampton, bottom of the league.
It's demoralising, isn't it? It's like it doesn't do players' confidence any good. Yeah, I totally agree. When they're doing well, like they come on, they do something, there's got to be a bit of a reward there for me. And I'm not saying you do that if we were playing Arsenal or something this weekend. You know, sentiment goes totally out of it then. But Southampton at home, you know, if you can't trust players against Southampton at home, then what are they even here for if you don't trust them?
What about Mo? I don't think there's any chance Mo gets a rest. I think he probably plays. He demands to play, doesn't he? You know,
but hopefully you give him 70 minutes and then you can get Chiesa on, depending on how the game's going. That would be the ideal scenario.
Who?
Enrico Chiesa. Played for Parma in the 90s.
I think every time I hear his name, I'm kind of like, oh yeah, it just doesn't even enter my head, which is a shame. But
Oh, he's such a
uh,
top fella. I've seen him on the pitch,
yeah,
like just buzzing for Harvey, congratulating Harvey afterwards and that. Like he's just a really nice guy, isn't he?
yeah. Hopefully, it's what everybody's speculating is that we're just trying to get him completely right and get him up to speed and give him a full preseason, and he can play a bigger role next year. But I have my doubts about that. Yeah, I mean, and like, there's been a lot of talk about Dan Harvey Elliott's future role, whether he's going to have to look elsewhere to play his football in the future, which will be heartbreaking for him. Liverpool fanatic growing up, like just the nicest lad you could possibly hope to meet, unless your name's Harry Kane. And but if that is the case, and Harvey does have to go elsewhere, man, he's had some moments before. He's 22 years old. He has been a key player for Liverpool and scored some crucial goals. Been a part of some wonderful seasons, wonderful moments. He'll hopefully, if he does leave, it'll be with a league championship medal. Barring anything untowards. But yeah, just grateful to him for his contribution, really, and for being such a good team player.
It's important to have players like that around. Obviously, you've got your superstars of your first 11, but the squad players are important too. And it's as you kind of touched on, Chris. It's been a difficult season for him. He missed the first 3 or 4 months with a broken foot, didn't he? So he's missed a lot of time, and he's not quite got fully up to speed with what Slot wants from him. I don't think just yet. And I really hope he's given the time. Obviously, he loves the club, and you can see that everything shines through. He loves playing for Liverpool, and we all love a player like that who did living the best life and doing what we'd love to do. There's nothing quite like that. It's why we love Curtis so much, and why most of us love Trent so much as well. They're living the dream. So I really wanted to work for him. I just think that Slot thinks he's a bit slow and lacking in physicality. Can that be addressed? I'm not so sure it can, but it's important to have players like that around in the squad. I hope he stays. I hope he has the benefit of a full pre-season and we can keep him. But like the lad missed out on a league medal, didn't he, in 2020 because he didn't play enough games and he was a child at the time. He's still only young, still developing now. So I really, really hope that worst case scenario and he leaves, and I would suggest that that is a possibility.
Yeah.
Then we send him on the way with a medal. That's very important that we get that done for him.
Because it's weird, isn't it, Dave? We talk about like Connor Bradley as this, young up and coming young talent just coming into the team. Well, aren't him and Harvey the same age?
Yeah.
And you look at Harvey; he's like an old campaigner. He's played like almost 150 games for us, and just by his 22nd birthday, he's had a good Liverpool career by most people's standards, I'd say.
Yeah. I don't ever want to see him leave.
No, me
that
either.
might be wishful thinking. It probably is wishful thinking, but no, I don't ever want to see Harvey leave. I hope he spends his whole career at Anfield. And I think for him to leave, they would have to drag him out kicking and screaming. And I don't know how they would get his dad out. Because that Amazon documentary, I know you two boys haven't seen it. I haven't seen all of it. I've seen the first 3 episodes. But Harvey's dad is like, he's getting a bit of stick. I've seen like loads of people slagging him off, saying he's like the overbearing parent who's like living his dreams through his kids and all of that. And I feel like that's harsh because like I totally get why he's the way he is. His son's playing for Liverpool, and like he's a massive Liverpool fan. His son's playing for Liverpool. He's like, Harvey is living his dad's dream. And I feel like people are being harsh on his dad, and I think we're just like too soft as a society in some ways. Like he gets people are saying, "Oh, look at that." Harvey tells a story about like when he was playing for Fulham's under 12s or something, and they won 10-1, and he scored 10 goals, but he made the mistake for their goal, and his dad in the car like just immediately started talking about like the mistake that led to the goal. He's like, you can't be doing that. And everyone's like, oh, no, that's not... Well, that's how you make it. You're not going to make it by someone like just fluffing you up all the time and saying how great it is. It's like it's a tough football is like a tough business to get into, and I feel like Harvey's dad's taking a little bit too much shit for stuff that I think that's understandable. I mean, everyone buzzes off Ronnie Moran doing stuff like that back in the day because there's a reason why you do that. It's like because Harvey will have got in thinking, oh, look at that, I scored 10 goals, aren't I fucking boss? And he might like get a little bit full of himself. So I know he's only a kid and stuff, and that's why people would be saying it's too harsh and that. But I get it, and I think you'll find like a lot of players who've made it have had somebody like that. Not necessarily a parent, it could be like one of the youth team coaches or something like that. Someone just keeping the feet on the ground and making sure they stay focused. And Harvey's like just wants to do it for his dad, and the fact that like he's a Liverpool fan as well. This is his team, and I'd be heartbroken if he ever had to leave. And but it does feel like it's tough.
What you were saying about his dad there and criticising at that moment, what it also probably means is he's going to be up for the fight. He's not going to, at the first sign of adversity, just look for the door. He's going to stay and fight for his place. Yeah. And, he doesn't expect, he's grounded, isn't he? He's like, he's not expecting anything to be handed to him like every single young player you see coming through at like Manchester United or whatever. Like he's got that grounding to stay and fight for his place and know that stuff comes through hard work. So, he's got all the ability in the world. And as like Dan says, the only things that are sort of holding him back are the things that he can't control, right? Yeah. Like his physical attributes. And if the only way around that, I suppose, is just to be as impactful and brilliant with the ball as he is. But I don't know. It's if a manager doesn't want you because you lack the attributes that he seeks in footballers, then there's not really that much you can do about that. But
it's position. It's finding a position. And when you look at like the team at the moment and the roles that everyone, specific roles that everyone's got, that I don't see a position where you can say, well, we can just slot him in as like a direct replacement for, I'd like to see him playing as a number 10, but if he plays as a number 10, he's doing it in like the polar opposite way to Dom. Now that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is if you're on a slot and you want your number 10 to play like Dom. He can't play on the right where Mo plays. He's not going to give you anywhere near that kind of production. He hasn't got the pace to play out there. He wants to get on the ball in deeper areas. The thing that he's great at is getting on the ball around the edge of the box and just like playing little passes to people and just getting the tempo of the team, raising the tempo and just getting us playing. He's great at that. But in terms of a specific role in this team, maybe as he gets older, he could maybe transition into playing like Macca's position, maybe, a bit deeper. I don't know. But as at the moment, if you were putting him in the team, there's no specific position that you look at and go, yeah, Harvey will fit in really well in that position. So I don't know. It's like, I think he's a great little footballer. I don't know what position he fills in this team.
I mean, maybe it's what he did last year. For most of last year, it's the super sub. It's doing what you say he's great at, coming on and picking up the tempo and picking out little passes around the edge of the box and coming up with crucial goals. Like, I'd be okay if he was just used more often in the role that he was used in last year. Like, why not? Why is it always like 5? Why is it not only 5 minutes, 7 minutes at a time that he, if that? Like, give him a fucking chance, man.
Because that's an important role. Super sub is an important role, especially now. The way the game is now, where like subs are used more often than ever before, and they're used earlier. Because you've got 5 subs, a lot of the time now some changes are made earlier because you've still got some up your sleeve. So, he should be getting more minutes.
All right. What else have you picked up, or any observations from what you've seen of the Amazon documentary so far? Because I've got no interest in watching it whatsoever.
Yeah, if you've got no interest in watching it, I can't come up with a good argument to talk you around and say, yeah, you should watch it, based on the 3 episodes I've seen.
What stood out to you, though?
It's fine. It's like... there's a lot of stuff about Klopp's like early years and that which was interesting, stuff that I didn't know. So footage of him playing for Mainz, and it's all like, it's interesting, it's fun. It doesn't grab you though, and the Liverpool stuff is pretty much It's not like behind the scenes access or anything like that. It's you'd see more from like the inside Anfield videos, like after matches. You'd see more inside, like back, behind the scenes stuff on those than I've seen so far in this Amazon thing. It's all like very carefully. It's interviews with players, and it's like interviewing them outside of the club in different environments. So like Harvey's been on, Conor Bradley, Curtis, and it's all good stuff. It's all like, it's not shit or anything like that. I'm not saying it's bad. But if you're expecting some sort of behind the scenes access and stuff that like you didn't really know, and like, oh wow, that's a bit of an eye opener. There's not really any of that stuff, and it sort of jumps backwards and forwards a lot as well. So there's no real structure to any of it. So it's hard to get into from that perspective.
I suppose it's because it's been piecemeal put together, right? Because this wasn't his intended purpose. It was supposed to be his last season, his great victorious swan song, and that was an absolute shitfest. So they pivoted, and now it's something that it was never supposed to be. So I don't suppose it is going to be a coherent story that, is satisfying to watch.
The best thing that I've seen so far was the stuff with Jayden Danns and his family. That was like really heartwarming stuff. So like they're in his house, he's there with his mum and dad, and I think his sister and maybe a brother. So like he's talking about like how much it means to him to get a chance. He'd made a couple of sub appearances at this point, and so they were following like his family when he scored the 2 goals in the FA Cup game. So like the cameras are there when Dan's comes out afterwards. He comes out and his family are waiting for him, and he comes over and like he's hugging his mum and his dad and his sister, and they're like, your nan's over there, go and see your nan. And they captured it. They were there at that moment. I don't know whether that was planned or if it was coincidence or what, but it all tied in really nicely with what they'd been doing, talking to him and talking to his dad and stuff. So that's probably the best bit I've seen so far. And like Curtis came across really well, like he always does. So I will watch the rest of it, but I'm not in any massive hurry to watch it. It's going to be one of those where I'll just stick it on when there's nothing else on the telly, or I've just got a bit of time to kill. I think I'll throw that one on, but I'm not like, I'm not in any massive hurry to watch it. I can't recommend it and say yeah definitely watch it.
All right, fair enough. Well, the only other thing that we wanted to touch on tonight, and I'm glad this is saved till the end, really, because sometimes when it happens during the game, we can get bogged down in these discussions about the officiating and referees and stuff. But this is something that happened outside of the game itself, and between our last 2 games. We got the verdict, Dan, on why Arne Slot's ban was for 2 games. Michael Oliver's account of the incident was revealed. I can't remember that happening too many times. Perhaps it's only because it happens when it concerns us, and I don't pay that much attention the rest of the time. But it's kind of like he said, she said. It's a he said thing, and it's a slightly different account of events. And I guess it just comes down to who you believe, Dan.
Well, put it this way, I'm more likely to believe Arne Slot than I am someone who goes on business trips to the UAE regularly. I thought that whole kind of passage was hilarious. I was like, I did have one of my moments where I went racing to complain about the fact that Everton had been fined less than us. That was my big takeaway from it. Those fucking jabronis got fined 15 grand less than us, despite the fact that they had a pitch invasion and like fleurs being thrown around. And yes, I know Curtis and Ducaro went at it.
Well, yeah, their player started that whole thing.
Exactly. That all of that, and we will come out with the biggest fine. That baffled me as well as boiled my blood. I thought it was hilarious that the assistant manager went racing across the pitch and followed the referee after he'd given the red cards to Jones and Ducore to continue remonstrating with him before he got sent off. And then, obviously, I think one of the big compliments that we all have for Slot is that he says what we want him to say and what we would say. And he said exactly what I was saying, but in a bit more industrial language. If we lose the league, it's your fucking fault. And he was absolutely right.
He
Obviously,
reckons he didn't say that though, does he? Did he? He reckons he didn't swear at him in that
He
instant.
definitely didn't say that.
Yeah, he said, "I'll have you to." Slot reckons he said, "I'll have you to thank," and it's a big difference between that and it's your fucking fault.
Yeah, I mean, whether he said it or not, I believe Arne Slot, but in many ways I do wish he'd have said it because it's more accurate, isn't it? If you're going to get a 2-game ban, you might as well call him every name under the sun. So whether or not he said it, I believe Slot more than I believe Oliver. I just thought it was hilarious because it's what I was saying, but I was jumping up and down, screaming at the TV, as opposed to Slot, who was very calm and composed, although he was clearly raging. The other big takeaway is that came out. That was late last week, wasn't it? I can't remember.
Monday,
when it came
I think
out.
it was.
Was it Monday?
It was
yeah.
Monday.
And on Saturday, who missed some proper sweet chin music in that Crystal Palace and Millwall game? I think I'm
That's
cute.
a bro kick, man.
I know I'm sexy. He kicked his fucking head off and he gave nothing.
Yeah. Free kick.
Yeah, someone said, and I can't remember who, it might have been you, Dave, someone said he's deliberately not given a red card, so he has to get on the microphone and chirp.
No, it wasn't
and
me.
It was someone said that he's that much of an egocentric narcissist. He's done that on purpose so he could have to talk to the crowd, get the microphone, get everyone watching him, and tell them the decision. I'm not so sure I subscribe to that. It's an absolutely dreadful decision. It's a sweet chin music. It's a bro kick. It's a half and half. It's every wrestling move to the head that you could.
It's a Drew McIntyre Claymore.
He claymored the shit out of him. Don't get me wrong. And obviously, I'm glad he's okay. You know, he had 25 stitches. That's not a small amount of stitches. I'm glad he's okay. But Jesus H, you're telling me that that's meant to be the best referee in the country? Get in the bin. He is absolutely terrible. He is getting worse by the week, and I think that trust, not just from us but from other fans, is starting to filter through. I'm not actually convinced that he's competent enough to be biased. I just think it's coming down to one thing: he is absolutely terrible, and it's becoming more and more apparent by the week. I mean, Dave called it. He called it with the cornrows in his eyebrows or wherever it were.
It wasn't cornrows, it was tram lines.
Well,
cornrows, fucking hell. Coming out like Kenny Powers.
In his eyebrows as well. Jesus Christ. Did you see, speaking of that Palace fucking Millwall game, did you see those Millwall cunts had a minute applause for the goalkeeper on 8 minutes, the same point that he was sent off the other night?
Oh my God.
They held him in their championship game with Bristol City on Tuesday night last night. They held a minute's applause for their goalkeeper. God. Like absolute fucking
They just revel in
there.
being the worst, don't they?
Yeah.
Like, it's a badge of honour.
It's unthinkable. It's unthinkable, that, isn't it? It's just. I mean, don't get me wrong. You know, I don't think for 1 second he's meant to boot his head off, but he has, and it's a red card. And I think Millwall's argument is that the FA are sticking the nose in and trying to get the ban extended. I can completely understand why they are. It was an absolutely dreadful tackle. I'm not saying he's meant to do it, but he's done it, and he's done it big time. He's 25 stitches. That is not something to be trifled with. He's caught him high studs. It's a very, very dangerous tackle. Not that I'm going to say this, by the way. I don't think it's great that the Crystal Palace chairman went racing on at half time to use quite inflammatory language about the tackle as well. Yeah, it's not great. I hope your lad's okay, but there's not many professionals apart from one who I'll gladly slate on this podcast, Roy Keane, who set out to deliberately injure opposition players, and it's an accident. So I do think that the Crystal Palace chairman has made that situation worse. However, organising a round of applause after 8 minutes to someone who has done something very wrong is very, very Millwall, very on brand, isn't it?
The only thing Roy Keane did was he took out his knee instead of his bollocks. If he did took out Haaland's bollocks, then we'd all be better off, wouldn't we? So let's give Roy Keane a pass on that one. But in terms of like the Slot Oliver thing, so Slot's got no reason to lie. He's actually not really fought the charges or anything. He immediately was like showing contrition afterwards, said, yeah, if I could have that back, I'd behave differently, all that. Why is he then going to lie about what he said? So that's one thing. Two, if you look at what Oliver said that Slot said to him, and you look at Slot's version of it, and if you ever just like watch Arne Slot talking, that's how he talks. Like, you know, it's Oliver's talking like it's a native English speaker would say something like that to him.
Yeah.
The way that was worded is exactly how a Dutchman speaking English would speak. So, like, again, there's no doubt in my mind who's telling the truth. But what I want to know is, the referees are mic'd up. Why is there no audio of it?
That's a very good point, actually.
There kind of wasn't there? There was like a muffled kind of. There was like a muffled clip, I think, where you could kind of get the gist of what was being said, but not the exact words.
That's the TV, though, isn't it? That's the TV.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but the referee's audio, I mean, going through to VAR.
Probably because Oliver's lying.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. It's another reason.
Yeah.
Like, they could clear this up immediately by, and it's not even important because he would have probably got the 2-game ban, even if like they accepted his version of events. They would have still said, "Well, we're banning you for 2 games anyway." It's not. He's not being banned for 2 games because he used the F word. So it's just another like example of what an absolute rat Oliver is. But another thing that like nobody seemed to pick up on there. In Oliver's account of it, he said, like, Slot came up and said blah, 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 and then a minute later he came back and said blah, 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 and the footage doesn't show that. He goes on at the end of the pitch, at the end of the match, he says what he says. Oliver's pulling for the red card immediately before he's even finished speaking. There's the handshake, and as soon as like he's pulling the hand away, he's wanting to get the card out. There's no like he came back a minute later. That didn't happen. So that was weird. But the thing that I found like hilarious was like Dan just mentioned it there was like the assistant, Sipka Hulshoff. When it's written down, it's so funny, like the account of it. It's like he was following Oliver around the pitch just going, "You're fucking shit. You're fucking shit. You're a disgrace. You gave them everything. You're fucking shit." He just kept telling them he's fucking shit. And when it's written down, it's so much funnier than like you can't do it justice. But when you're reading it in an official like report, he said, and then in quotes, "You're fucking shit." It's just class. Well, so he got a 2-game ban as well. But at least I feel like he at least got his money's worth. I feel like Slot's been shortchanged on that 2-game ban because I don't think he's really done anywhere near enough to have warranted that. But at least the assistant's like holding his hands up and going, "Yeah." At least, I made it worth me while.
And the good thing about the 2-game ban is... Sorry, Dan, go ahead.
Can we not have the audio of Sipka Hulska chasing him? It'd be like an episode of The Osbournes. You're all fucking mad. I didn't bleep myself then. That's a waste of time.
That's pretty good, that, judge going by your impressions, Dan. That was... Hey, what's going on here with us as a podcast sponsoring Dan in the cricket? What's the deal with that? What do we have to do to be Dan's sponsor in the cricket? What's the deal there? And I'm not getting sponsored in any of my endeavours.
You haven't asked. Dan's like...
All right.
Dan's a cheeky bastard. He'll always ask. Dan's always walking around with the fucking begging bowl out.
No, it's just we have a certain arrangement, Dave. Protection money, you know.
Do you buy Dan's kit for the year then, or what? Some new pads or something?
I don't know what they use the money for. I think Dan uses it just for Fanta.
So, I wish. I wish that Fanta Lemon stockpile in my fridge is getting very busy for me. It's basically, Chris, the club I play for, Earlstown. We have a lot of dodgy equipment that's aging. So,
okay.
And that's just the players. Any kind of money that comes in from sponsorship, whether that be sponsoring an individual player, advertising hoardings or whatever, it all goes into the club to pay for new equipment, for loan to get the pitch done, all that kind of stuff. It's for the running of the club because we don't get a lot of money coming in outside of the usual membership fees and stuff like that.
Right.
So very very kindly, this podcast sponsor me. So every time I'm the midweek captain or one of the midweek captains next season, so my name will be getting read out by our non-existent Tannoy system quite a few more times. So yeah, thank you for everyone at the podcast for sponsoring me. I do appreciate it.
I haven't done it yet, Dan. I haven't sent the money over. Brownie has. Brownie sent money over, and then Brownie said, like, everyone needs to chip in so we can buy a big fucking advertising board at the ground.
Yeah.
You got no takers whatsoever. No one was.
Dan, send me.
It was tumbleweed through the chat.
Send me the rate as well. I'll chip into that as well. But I do want 1,000 runs and 100 wickets from you this year, if that's the case.
I might be able to help with the 100 wickets. I'm not sure.
1,000 wickets.
Runs. Yeah, let me run that back. I can help perhaps with the 100 wickets, but not 1,000 runs.
All right, fair enough. I'll hold you to that. All right, anything else that we want to add about tonight, heading into the weekend? We've covered the ref stuff. We've covered the Amazon documentary. I think we've been pretty comprehensive.
Yeah, I can't think of anything. No.
Good stuff.
Nope.
All right.
Yeah, the baby Jesus loves Alisson.
Absolutely, man. Long may that continue. I mean, like, we've been talking about Arne Slot's great 11 all season. That was fucking Ocean's 11 in Paris tonight with the heist job that we've done there.
That's good. You've been waiting the whole pod to get that one.
You rumbled me. Delighted with that win tonight. We've had some great performances and some huge wins throughout the season. It's nice to have one where we can look back at and think, like, yeah, got away with one there, and it's no less memorable than any of the other ones. Alisson, like, just probably the one of the best Liverpool goalkeeper performances any of us have ever seen, if not the best, and a lovely moment for my boy Harvey at the end to seal the win. Hopefully we can complete the job next Tuesday at Anfield. Between that, we have a home game against Southampton. Saturday, I think it's 3 p.m. kickoff. Dave and the boys will be back on Saturday after that one. Thank you so much for listening. Until then, we'll catch you soon.